Okay. Whoops. Sorry. There we go, the share button. All right, are you seeing my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Well, welcome tonight to the team manager training for new team managers in the Early Learning Challenge, which we affectionately call Rising Stars. My name is Margaret O'Connor. I am the Regional Training Director. I've held a lot of different kind of positions or jobs in the TVNC region, which is the name of our region. But perhaps my favorite one, besides being, doing training, is that I started my involvement with this program when my daughter was in second grade, 100,000 years ago. And I initially sat in a room listening to what OM, now Destination Imagination, was all about. And I reluctantly, at first, kind of looked at the person next to me who was also a McCoy Elementary mom and said, well, I could maybe help somebody do this. And she said, well, I was sort of thinking the same thing. So without either of us deciding to take lead, we started a partnership where we were co-team managers for our daughter's teams from second grade all the way through sixth grade. When they went to different junior high schools, they went to some different teams, and my daughter stayed on a team all the way through high school that I did not coach, because by then I was working with Carlton Farmers Branch Schools. It changed what kind of parent I was. I made my kids take a lot more ownership for things than and in fact, her two older brothers would sometimes say, would you stop DIing me? Would you just tell me what I'm asking you? Would you just give me a straight answer? And I'd be, well, what do you think you should do about that? So DI has been a big part of our family, and it continues to be a big part of my life. I love the training part. And my daughter, in fact, sits on our regional board and is the scholarship chairman. So we're pretty involved. Catherine, do you want to briefly introduce yourself?
Yep, my name is Catherine Carlin. I am one of the regional directors for TVNC, and I also manage the website.
Thankfully, and really also kind of manages all the Zoom-ness and is
Right.
a fantastic moderator. Did you start as a Rising Stars?
I did not. We started, my daughter started when she was a third grader. It was kind of a similar thing. The Rising Star team manager, I assumed that she was going to sort of continue, and I said I would help out, and she said, no, I'm done. And so I started with the team in third grade, and my daughter went through high school also on DI, and now she's in college, and actually she's in another state, and she helps with their regional and state tournaments there as an appraiser as well. So it is something that kind of sticks with you a little bit.
It really does. And Monica, will you introduce yourself too?
I'm Monica Brink. I'm the other regional director, and I'm also the challenge master for improv. I have been doing DI since my son was in third grade. He too is in college now, only he started college and then COVID hit, so they haven't done anything really. But yeah, I've done it. We love it. He can't wait to get back involved with it. So it is something that you learn a lot about through doing, and it becomes something the family just does together, and it's fantastic.
Great. Well, let me dig right in here. So the Early Learning Challenge this year is called Monster Manners. But before I get into too much specifics about the challenge itself, I'm going to give you enough of an overview of what the DI program is about, what some of the goals and philosophies are. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to get started, what to expect through the year. I'm going to give you enough general information that you'll be able to use the materials that are provided and go forth and work with the team. And I have some statistics kind of about how we learn. And if you're sitting in a lecture, you're going to retain maybe 5 to 10%. If you then, actually have to read something, it goes up maybe 10 to 20%. If there's some audio visual, so hence the PowerPoint, that ups it to, maybe 20, 25%. If you see a demonstration, if you see something in action, then it boosts it maybe up above 30. When you are engaged in group discussion about concepts or materials that are being presented, most people retain about 50% from, a presentation or a class. When you practice what you've learned, you retain 75 to 80%. And when you go to teach someone else to use the information, the sooner the better, your retention becomes 90 plus. So what we're about here is to give you information and I hope it doesn't just seem like I'm yammering at you. We're going to give you some handouts and materials that you can use. We're going to, it's not very interactive. It's much more interactive when we're all in a room together. But I'm going to give you some additional resources for you to be able to access. And mostly, we're going to give you the tools for you to be able to go right away and work with your team and learn by doing. So let's start with, what's the tournament day? Let's start with the end in sight. So the Rising Stars Tournament Day starts with you walking into a high school. It's very exciting to be in a big school like that. The Rising Stars are in their own area of the tournament site. There's lots of bright red signs everywhere to help the team manager and the kids and the families get to the right place. You'll see lots of helpful volunteers. The kids get to gather while their parents help bring everything in. And then we're going to tell the parents to just go sit down in the challenge room where they're going to be able to watch. They may even watch another team or two before our team goes on, because we might have a thing or two to do before we're ready to go in. Once we have our props and our costumes on and everything ready to go, the team's going to put all that stuff in what we call the prep area, which is right outside of the challenge room. And a warm and helpful volunteer is going to make sure that they have everything ready, that all their props are lined up, and their costumes are on, and they're going to show them exactly where to go once they get inside the door. And then she's going to let you, the team manager, go and sit down, because that's when the magic begins. The team gets a big introduction as the stars they are. They get to see who the appraisers are, the tournament judges. Those people are going to either come sit on the floor in front of them or stand to the side. They're super excited to watch your kids. And the timer starts. And the kids are going to have this 8 minutes to set up their props, to move them into the sort of stage area, and to start their little play. And this skit that they're going to do is the culmination of all the time the team spends together. They're going to dream up their story. They're going to make their costumes out of this and that all by themselves. They're going to paint their props, and they're going to show the things that they made that they're going to use in the play. And it's all done by them. So they're so proud. And whatever happens, if they go off script, or they have to start giving each other a few prompts, or maybe they forgot a prop or something, or something breaks, it's no big deal. They just keep going. And you know why nobody gets upset? Is because they practiced that things might happen. And they own it. they're going to end to rousing applause from the appraisers and the moms and the dads and the grandmas and the teachers who came to see them perform. Then the appraisers, this is a really special part, get down on their knees or down on the kids' level, and they ask the kids to tell them all about the cool things that they did all along the way. So they're going to have the opportunity to tell the appraisers what they learned, what failed along the way, how they had fun together, and what they're most proud of. Then at our tournament, most teams are going to opt to do a simple instant challenge next. So at the Rising Star level, everybody gets to watch as the kids maybe take some popsicle sticks, a couple of paper clips, some mailing labels, and a cotton ball to make a device that will shoot the cotton ball as far across the table as they can. And it's going to demonstrate how well they've learned to problem solve together. And you'll be amazed throughout the season. You'll do something like this at the beginning of the season. You'll think, oh my gosh, we're never going to get there. And by tournament time, you'll see that they're able to do these simple instant challenges right there on the spot. At that point, the team gets another big round of applause, and the team gets an award that's their own sort of unique best in show sort of accolade. And every kid gets a blue ribbon. And then parents can come up and help get the stuff out of the room and hug their little Hollywood stars. And everybody gets to go celebrate with the team and the families, however they decide they want to celebrate. And it's such a great time because the kids have developed so much confidence, resourcefulness. They've learned so many skills, from acting to drilling holes to using a glue gun. And they've learned that they know now that they don't need no stinking adult to give them ideas or answers or to do things for them. They can do it themselves. And what a gift it is that you, the team manager, has facilitated that with the team and sometimes kept overly involved parents' fingers out of things. And you've helped birth all those benefits. Does that sound good to you? So how do we get from here to there? I want to give you an idea of what the timeline is. So here we are in October. This is where, as your team starts to meet through November and into December, they're going to start learning how to learn to work together as a team. They're going to learn how to do the things that they need to do, that the challenge asks them to do. And part of the way they're going to learn some of these skills is by doing these instant challenge problem solving activities. And you're going to help them understand what their Monster Manners challenge is all about. So through December and into January, the team's going to be brainstorming ideas. They're going to maybe be doing some research and experimentation. They're going to try building things. They're going to try making costumes. They're going to create their presentation with all of those pieces that it requires. And they're going to keep doing instant challenges because by that time, a lot of times an instant challenge is a reward for working for a while on those props. Ultimately, at the end of January and into February, they're going to need to be finalizing and refining their solutions. They're going to make sure that their props, their artwork, their costume, their scripts are kind of all done in time for what we call crunch time, which is where you're going to be rehearsing. The team's going to be rehearsing their skit and certainly doing some more instant challenges along the way. So let's talk about what is this thing called Destination Imagination. And I'm going to start out with a challenge for you. So overnight, the swimming pool got filled with marbles. Okay, go. I don't see anybody saying anything. Would you like some instructions? Would you like to know what the activity is? Well, that's a good place to start. So with Destination Imagination, we're not just going to throw a manual at you or some printed paperwork. We're actually going to provide this training tonight, and there are future training opportunities if you want to take advantage of them. And you're going to learn about what is the problem-solving process? What is creative problem solving? What is it that we're trying to do with these kids? What is it that we're trying to learn? So the intent with the Rising Stars or Early Learning Challenge is that this is really a learning year for your team. So they're gonna learn about what creativity is. So, we can all sort of throw out words or concepts about what is creativity. Creativity is maybe the ability to fantasize and dream, to make things up, to generate a lot of ideas, to maybe take the germ of somebody else's idea and piggyback on that, taking two unrelated things and putting them together to come up with something really cool. Maybe relating one idea to another, picking out the useful bits of an idea, and being able to kind of evaluate or look at things in a new way. Like, what if we reversed things? What if we made things really big? What if we were really tiny? What are common materials that we can put to other kinds of uses? So all of that is the creativity side, and certainly the acting and the making props and developing costumes. All of that is really fun and creative outlet. But creative problem solving also has the pragmatic side, which is working within the requirements of the challenge, adding the parameters of what we're supposed to do, making sure that there's enough time, that we have the materials that we need, that we have the space to work in. We're going to make sure that we're not, that we're analyzing the costs both in time and money of different kinds of ideas or thoughts that the kids make up. And part of what they'll do in sort of the analysis phase, it's really fun to brainstorm a whole lot of ideas, but then you got to put these things into action, right? So considering the obstacles and figuring out a plan so that we can succeed. So really the crux of creative problem solving is that creativity has little value in and of itself without the structure and the parameters. Creativity, DI believes, is innate. We are, as human beings, we are a creative animal. We've had to creatively problem solve, to leash in fire, to figure out wheels, to understand how a wheel can become a gear, all of those developments along the way. So creativity, though innate, can be taught and learned and developed both in kids and adults. We can all stretch our creativity muscle. Creative problem solving is going to link their natural creativity and their sort of natural problem solving approaches. Everybody thinks differently. Little kids have little personalities, big personalities, and they have their own talents and their own ways of thinking and their own ways of approaching something that is, work, or we're gonna stimulate some really lasting changes in how they think of work and obstacles and when something doesn't work. And we use creative problem solvings all the time in our everyday problems and long-term challenges and opportunities that we face as adults. And we're setting the framework for our little kids through the very simplified Rising Star Challenge to be able to do all these kinds of things. And of course, DI is all about promoting teamwork, developing as a team the trust to be able to put our ideas out there, the willingness to collaborate, sort of constructively dealing with diversity, with differing ideas, with what you think you're good at and what you actually can accomplish. And all of those things are, sort of big ideas for little kids. So, if you think about creativity and you think about what I said about, in and of itself, it's of little or no value. Really, you think about somebody like an architect or designer who has to have all of that background and training to be able to use that as the basis to be able to create new buildings. A poet juggles words and sounds until they find just the right image or series of sounds that represents their message. Maybe a political cartoonist who can take a humorous phrase or situation and apply it to a current event or political person. Maybe we have Peter Pan sort of fluttering and saying, if you really believe it, it'll come true. So that's just sort of a little bit of a picture of, you know, what it is that we're talking about and what we want to help facilitate for our kids. So what is the process? Destination Imagination is very much a process-oriented program. So if our problem was that overnight the swimming pool got filled with marbles, what are the steps that what are we going to do to solve the problem? What do you think is our first step? And if you want to put it in chat, go ahead. Figure out what our goal is, identify the problem. Any other thoughts? Well, I'm going to give a gold star here to identify the problem. That is the first thing that we have to do, which might be figuring out, you know, what the ultimate goal is. But yeah, is our problem that we have to get rid of the marbles? Is our problem, you know, how we're going to live with the marbles? You know, so identifying what the problem is the first thing. Then what's our natural next step? I bet everybody gets this one. I don't see anything coming in chat, so I'm just going to keep talking. So we're going to want to be able to have a lot of ideas to choose from. Everybody should be able to feel free to throw out ideas. And in fact, that might help us identify more than one problem. And so I actually do this as an activity in a live training, and there are tables, you know, and people have different things, like Big Tex wants a corn dog, but he can't reach his pocket. How can we help him? You've snowshoed into an old miner's cabin, and overnight it gets completely covered. You're snowed in. You know, what next? So they're all statements like this. And so first, yes, is identifying the problem. Then deciding what those steps are. Alexa, stop. Mostly I call her she who should not be mentioned. So we're going to throw out a whole lot of ideas. So with the swimming pool, maybe we want to have a whole bunch of kids come over and we give them a gallon Ziploc bag, and they can take, you know, as many marbles as they can carry. Or maybe we're going to, you know, worry about what happened to all the displaced water. Maybe that's our problem. Or maybe our problem is, can we turn this into, you know, a giant ball pit to play in? You know, so first we've got what is the problem and a lot of ideas. The next thing we're going to do is evaluate our ideas. And, you know, through process of looking through that list of things that I talked about in terms of the pragmatic side, you know, well, what do we have for materials? Do we have time to do something? Do we have the money to have somebody just come with a backhoe and scoop them all out? You know, if we did that, are we going to damage the pool? You know, so we have to evaluate ideas and ultimately decide, okay, I think the Ziploc bags, we just tell everybody in town to come with a, you know, or one of those, maybe let's not even use plastic. Let's use those, you know, Trader Joe's, or, you know, those tote bags you get at every convention. Fill them up and take the marbles away. Doesn't hurt the pool. Everybody gets marbles to play with, and we get our pool back. So we develop a plan. We have to put into the action steps to actually get to that plan. And ultimately, at the end, we evaluate, did we meet our goals? Did this work? And if not, then we have to go back to the process again. So that creative process is all about the kids being able to use their own ideas, their own teamwork, and not for the adults to lead them to a specific kind of an answer. And so we have a variety of resources that are available to you that will help you understand what that process needs to be, how to start now, or soon, and actually get to a February 19th tournament with props, costumes, a story, a skit, and all of the things, without anybody killing anybody. And so again, the great thing about the Rising Stars Challenge is that it is not ranked or scored. The Rising Stars Challenge, everybody gets, like I said, everybody gets an award that says they were the best at using aluminum foil to make, antennae. And another team might get the best to use rhymes throughout their skit. So every team is going to get an award. They aren't ranked, and nobody goes on to a further tournament, although Texas is considering having Rising Stars at the state tournament. But because it's not ranked and we're not actually getting scores, having numbers associated with it, it is the perfect learning year. Nonetheless, we're going to stress to you to work through the process the way Destination Imagination wants kids to learn it, so that when they become a competitive team in a year or two, that they don't have to relearn the concepts that are most important. So how do we get started, and what the heck do we do? So first of all, DI, when you have your membership, and we'll talk about some of the, how that happens depending on whether your school district purchases the memberships or whether you need to purchase the membership. But once you have the challenge, within the challenge, you'll have, with the Rising Stars Challenge, we'll be looking at it in the second half of our program tonight. But you'll have a lot of tools and a lot of suggestions on how to be successful with your Rising Stars team through the year. There's also a video that's on our website that is more possibly comprehensive maybe than what we're doing tonight. It's from a couple of years ago. And so you could watch the first hour of that training. It's a 2-hour training, because the second hour was specific to that challenge that year. But alternatively, we are doing an Introduction to Destination Imagination Team Manager Training Part 2, where I go much more in depth on team building, how to get the kids starting to work together. And then we have another training a little later after that, at the first part of November, which is more about Instant Challenge. So you're certainly welcome to come to the additional trainings. We have some handouts that some of them are part of tonight. The team parent meeting, I don't think I sent that. But in your materials with the Rising Stars Challenge, you also have kind of an outline for how to get the parents together. It's an important first step so that everybody, all the parents, understand a couple of key concepts. One is that the team relies on each other, and that you're not the teacher, you are a volunteer, and they need to respect you, and they need to get their kids there, and they need to pick their kids up on time. And you need help with, maybe somebody to be the communication person, maybe somebody, sort of team mom or team dad, somebody to maybe arrange a snack schedule, especially if you're meeting right after school or something. We have a wonderful handout, which is team meetings, what do I do the very first time, which is literally a step-by-step on how to run your first meeting. And I'll show you that one. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the rules. One other thing about the Rising Stars or Early Learning Challenge is that technically Destination Imagination says the rules don't really apply. But there are very specific guidelines about safety in terms of, you know, what you can do with electronics and batteries, what is safe and unsafe at a tournament, that everybody has to actually have shoes, some sort of shoe covering on their feet, whether you can use latex or helium or different things like that. So it's important that your team parents know that there are some rules. But the biggest one is that there is a concept called interference. No interference. And what that means is that everything that comes into the room on competition day, on tournament day, is done by those kids, was thought up by those kids, the story was developed by those kids, the costumes were created by those kids. Nobody else is going to do the sewing for them. Nobody else is going to hammer the nails for them. It's really, really important that parents understand that they can't do things for their kids, that their kids are going to either learn how to use the tools that they need to use, like maybe a razor knife or a drill, hammers and nails, screwdriver. And if you're a sewing machine, if you're not willing to let them use one of those kinds of tools, then they're going to have to come up with another way that they are able to do that. Like maybe they're going to have to use a lot of duct tape and stitch witchery and big cardboard boxes and things. So I do have a handout for you. We'll look at it just real quickly. So the rules are that team members should be enrolled in grades kindergarten, first, and second. Now, there have been situations where a third grade sibling was on a primary or Rising Star team. Most of the time in Destination Imagination, kids play up to the next level. So we've had that happen too, but we're really expecting the kids to all be kindergarten, first, and second grade, that they'll perform at the local tournament, which is February 19th at Marcus High School. Well, 5 copies of the Starry Showcase form doesn't really pertain anymore because that's all online now. The team performance is not supposed to go past 8 minutes, which includes setting up. So most teams are gonna kind of shoot for a skit that's maybe 5 minutes long so that they have enough time to do that setup. And then there are some guidelines in what's called the rules of the road, which is what competitive teams, the rules that they are bound by. But we're going to really adhere to the rules of interference, the safety section, like I was talking about in terms of electric use and helium and things like that. There are rules about copyrights and trademarks where you really shouldn't be using Mickey Mouse. They should be creating their own characters, their own made up things. So as a competitive team, you have to actually get permission if you're going to use something with a copyright or a trademark. There's a process for registering your team for the tournament. That information will be forthcoming. You'll get it. And there are some sort of procedures about setting up props and scenery. Like parents can bring everything actually into the room, but then from then on, the kids are supposed to move things around themselves. And of course, there's a conduct, at the competitive level, you can actually get big time numerical deductions for being unsportsmanlike, for running through the hallway and you trip over and break somebody else's props or something like that. We also have a recommendation that you cap the expenditures at maybe $50, $60 based on the guidelines that are in the rules of the road about the budget. We don't require an expense report. We do ask for a declaration of independence, and those are things that you don't even have to worry about really right now. There is a training about 2 weeks before the tournament. It's called our pre-tournament training, so that you'll know everything you need to know about being prepared for the tournament, and we'll go over forms then. So if you have any questions about the rules and how you find out about the rules, go ahead and put that in chat, and I'll cover that towards the end. Okay, then interference. There is a handout that I sent to Catherine that she will put a link to in the chat called Interference Yes or No, which really, really demystifies this whole idea of, oh my God, do they really have to do everything themselves? The great thing about interference is that you can teach them any skill they need to know. If they need to know how to use a sewing machine, how to cut material, how to use a pattern, if they need to learn how to safely use tools, somebody should get safety glasses and make sure everybody has something on their feet, and make sure that things are held down on both ends with a vise or have something heavy, and that they learn how to use their center of gravity to use the drill. You can teach them all of that, and you can help them make Swiss cheese out of a piece of 2x4 until they're really good at being able to, drill a hole so that they can screw in the screws to put one of those things together. So they can put two pieces of wood together, that they can put an L block on, or any of those kinds of things. But what comes out on stage at the tournament has to have been done by the kids. Okay.
Margaret, I was just going to hop in real quick on the interference. So there's the obvious interference, like, don't paint their set for them, or don't, sew their clothes for them, kind of thing. But there's also sort of the subtle interference where you kind of slyly guide their thinking one way or another, right? like if you decide, their idea is a little too messy, and maybe geez, is that too messy? Maybe we shouldn't do it that way. That's interference as well, right? So watch out that you're not kind of, giving them hints about what they could do, and or leading them down a certain path, because that's interference as well. So it's not just what you see like on the stage, it's the also sort of how did they get there as well.
Very true. Thank you.
Oh, and then we have a really nice question. It says, how does interference work with regards to playing nice together? So I think there's part of like the challenge interference, and then there's the monkeying around during, team meeting. So,
right.
So help us with that, Margaret.
Yes, that's a good one. You are in complete control of, you are the facilitator, and you are the safety engineer, and you are you're the recorder of ideas. Yeah, you're going to be spending definite time learning how to be a team together before you really ever even tackle the specifics of the challenge. And that's where I was saying this second training, which is next Tuesday night, we go into how important team building is, and a lot of tools and handouts that we have that can help you with team building. But yeah, one of the first things in team building that or working together as a team might be to set up the how are we going to play nice together? What are our team rules? What are the norms that we're going to all agree to in terms of accepting each other's ideas and letting everybody have a turn at the drill, because wait, there's nothing more fun. And things like that. And certainly behavior issues. That's where you need to work with the other parents to make sure that they back you up with any kind of discipline that you have to mete out. Hopefully one of my best tips on if everybody's starting to get testy and they're not being nice to each other is to make an instant challenge out of, all right, everybody stand up, we're going out in the front yard and I'm going to give you a set of instructions. Okay, first guy, go and run around the light pole and come back and tag the second player. Okay, player 2, you have to do what player 1 did and then go pick up 2 leaves and come back. Okay, now 3, you're going to do those the 2 things and you're going to hop on 1 foot for the last 50 feet, blah, 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 as to just get them to do something physical that's fun as a team, and then go back inside. And because it's hard work to get them to sit still and actually brainstorm ideas. There's a lot of cool brainstorming games. We have great tools to help them make decisions. There's a whole, and I'll show you on the website where we have those additional resources. So you can interfere away in terms of facilitating their behavior. But you do need to enlist parental help. And we strongly suggest that one team manager is not all alone with a group of kids, that you have another adult with you for the safety's sake. If somebody hits their thumb with a hammer, that there's somebody to help keep everybody else from doing something screwy while you put some ice on that. So I hope that answers that question. So the tools. Again, team building is job 1, and we have some great handouts on our website, and this is what I will be training on in this part 2 next Tuesday night, which is how to understand how our different personalities can mesh, how we can learn to appreciate that if I'm good if I'm a big idea person, I may not be very good at being able to develop that action plan. I'm not very good at the to-do list. I'm on to the next creative idea. So I need another kid on my team who's good at that because I'm not, right? So, and also, like I was talking about, we all learn differently, and we approach problem solving. We approach, what's important to us. Is it important to us that everybody feels good about what we're doing, or is it important that it works? So all of that is discussed in length, but we also have handouts or a whole booklet of team building on our website. So that's the first thing that you're going to want to do. Then we also have problem solving tools that come with the early learning challenge. They're actually part of the 35 pages or so that makes up the early learning or Rising Stars challenge. We also have an additional one that I use I present it to, elementary and middle school teams too, which is like an inverted triangle or pyramid. And so you start out with, okay, we had 5 ideas at the top. Which one do we like the least as a group? Okay, take that out. Now we only have 4. Okay, let's all talk about it. Okay, that gets us to 3. Okay, now we're down to 2. Which of the 2? And which of the 2 may be a popular vote. But at that point, everybody's had an opportunity to weigh in and have some ownership in the choices. So it's called the chooser tool, and it is on our website. Another way that the kids learn the process is by doing these instant challenges. So like I described before, instant challenges are a short format, usually with some common materials like 3x5 cards and a Dixie cup and maybe some pieces of spaghetti or some pencils or some chenille sticks, pipe cleaner things, maybe some mailing labels and some paper clips. And they'll have different challenges with these different kinds of things. So they might be asked to build that catapult we were talking about before, where they can toss the cotton ball across the table. They might be asked to build a tower tall enough to hold that cotton ball on top of it. They might be given, two backs of chairs or 2 bricks on a table and told to use these materials to build a bridge that spans the 12 inches between the 2 bricks. So the kids are going to learn what doesn't work and what does work. They're going to learn who's better at coming up with ideas and who's better at putting them into play, who's better at the action plan. They're going to learn how, if they get upset and scuttle the materials, mess up the materials, that everybody loses. They're going to learn a lot of how to work together to effectively solve a small challenge like that. And the why do them? 2 reasons. One is so that they learn the process and get familiar with working together. They actually are mostly fun. It's not fun when they don't work, when something fails. So you just throw out some new materials and say, all right, what didn't work? Let's try again. And what's really cool about instant challenges, you can't interfere. You're allowed to interfere. I guess that's what I mean to say. It's okay for you to get right in there and help them. Well, what else could we do with this paper clip? Well, what if we pull it straight and use it to poke a hole in the eraser end of 2 pencils? And now they're stuck together on either side of this wire, way longer than 12 inches. What do you think? Let's use common materials in new ways. So you can show them how to do things. You can suggest, Sally had a really, really good idea here and you guys didn't even listen to her. Sally, what was your idea? What do y'all think of that idea now that it didn't, what we did the first time didn't work, so on and so forth. It's also a great way for the kids to, there are instant challenges that are like skit based. You have a few of these materials and you're going to build a new toy for the state fair, never been seen before. And then you're going to give a 2-minute commercial about how cool this toy is. So first they build the toy as a team, and then they do a little skit about their commercial for how cool it was. You can completely interfere during their skit performances in Instant Challenge and say, I can't hear you. I couldn't see you. It didn't have a beginning, middle, and end. What were you, you had really good ideas when you were talking, but you didn't do it when you got to the skit part. You can completely train them on performance skills that you can't do when they're actually working on their dress rehearsals of their skit. And research. Let's talk about research for a minute. In our part 2, I'm going to talk very specifically about some ways that the Rising Star level can do research. They can certainly go to YouTube. If they could go to the library and get a book about how to put costumes together, they can certainly go to YouTube or lots of Destination Imagination skits that they can watch. But then you don't want them to do the exact same thing. So where it's interference at the competitive level is there are YouTubes out there that tell exactly how to build a weight-bearing bridge. But if a team were to do exactly that, or were to, download the schematic to do that, that would be interference. That would be somebody else's ideas and somebody else's plans. But if you go to Pinterest or you go to YouTube and you look at a lot of different pictures of things, or if you need to know specifically the safest way to score and eventually bend big cardboard pieces, they can watch that on YouTube and then go practice in real life. So I hope that answers a little bit of that question about getting ideas outside of the team from something like YouTube. Yes, they can use it for inspiration, but they shouldn't use it for a specific solution. Okay. Give me 1 second here, make sure. So I was going to talk about, I know Catherine put this out in the chat for you to be able to download. It is on our website. This is a Rising Star version of the same exact handout that I use with competitive teams. And it literally is the game plan. How to do a few things in advance. Here's a typical 6 toothpicks, 6 inches of tape or masking tape or mailing labels, 4 drinking straws, 2 sheets of typing paper, who types? Computer paper, and 3 rubber bands. Okay, so let's say your meeting starts at 7 o'clock at night. This is literally minute by minute what you're going to say and do with a group of kids. Right up to talking a little bit about taking, maybe 20 minutes to talk about what the Rising Star Challenge is, so that they will be able to refer back throughout the season. And then, at the end of the night, you're gonna talk about how everything went and how much fun did they have, and sort of how they interacted. And at 8:31, you're gonna sit in the middle of the mess and pat yourself on the back. Now, I will say an hour and a half for a Rising Star team meeting when all they're doing is sitting and thinking might be a long time. And at the beginning of the season, I think you're probably going to work more in like a 60-minute time frame. And so you are going to have to be organized and have enough different things for them to do besides just sit and think to keep their interest going. They can certainly act out an instant challenge. They can get up and, you can have some physical things for them to do. They can pretend to be different kinds of characters. I mean, we have a lot of tips for you on how to keep a Rising Star team working and having fun as part of the Rising Stars challenge itself. The other thing I wanted to show is our website. The website is tvncdi.org, actually. And on our homepage, there are some great resources that you can look through and some wonderful videos that you can watch that if you weren't at our DI Awareness Night. But there is also at the bottom, way down, scroll down to the bottom, sign up for the weekly newsletter. Okay, it might not be weekly exactly on schedule every week, but throughout the DI year, we have a newsletter that goes out generally on Friday morning, and it has a lot of information. It's like what you need to know this week. It'll have information about training, if we get to have some workshops after the first of the year. It'll have good team meeting hints and tips. There's always at least one sample instant challenge, so you don't even have to go looking for instant challenges. It'll have information on the like nitty gritty, the how to what you need to do on what website to get registered and get an appraiser signed up and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, 7 to 8 o'clock might not be a good time frame for your kids, for Rising Stars kids. It may be that you want to meet right after school. My co-team manager and I were both working. And so our team met from 6:30 to 7:30 when they were second grade. In third grade, we were able to actually move to after school. And the other thing is that you're going to need some garage time when it's time to make those props and practice your skit and so forth. And so, there are going to be, my teams always used Martin Luther King Day and President's Day and, the winter break holidays to be able to have some longer work times. We called them garage days. So what you're going to need to do, and the beauty of being the team manager, is that you're able to figure out when is the right time for your team, for the parents, for the kids, and for you. So I wanted to acquaint you with our website. I wanted to also point out that's where the calendar, so you're able to see, the trainings that are coming up. Like here's that one I was talking about next Tuesday at 7. The first part of it is all about team building. So, you probably wouldn't have to stay for the whole training. And then 2 weeks from tonight is an instant challenge. That one's fun because we do some more interactive things. I'm going to suggest that probably most Rising Stars teams meet for about an hour every week. And then pepper in some garage days where there's longer times. But on those garage days, they're actually building things and making things. And so they're a little more engaged. And a lot of times those are come and go. Everybody on your team might not be able to devote from 10 to 2 on Saturday, but they might be able to come at 11 or have to leave at 1. The other thing is there's information about the registration or how to get started with your team. All of that is very helpful links. And then our team resources. There are training videos and there are training handouts. So you'll see that there are groupings of handouts. So here's all the training, and you see that there's in the Rising Stars, there's specific, here's that chooser tool, a bunch of Rising Stars instant challenges, some other tools. So you're able to see and download a lot of more handouts than just what I'm showing you tonight. So I wanted to make sure that you knew about the website. The other thing that's important, I guess, on our website is that you know who your school coordinator is, your district coordinator is, so that when you need help or are in the ready to actually get a team membership and register as a team manager, that they can help you with that process. So here are those names right here. And if you don't know these people, you want to get to know your school district coordinator. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put that down and close that out and move to my next slide, which is, we're ready to stop recording number 1. So at the end of this section, we've been all about the process and what to do to get started. In the separate recording number 2 that we're going to do tonight, we are going to specifically talk about this year's, the 21-22 Rising Stars Team Challenge, which is Monster Manners.
All right, so I will stop this one and start recording in a second, just reminding you that the time is 8:02, so we should be good, yes?
Yes.
All right, so let me stop this one.